So let's get to it. Let's try to just go one at a time. So, uh, Peter Trofimov, he's a they call him the Eternal Student. Um, so we're just gonna go on. Well, it's nice as these lines are when he introduces himself. So, just gonna go in and find our favorite takes.
Lubov, I just wanted to drop in and say hi.
Oops, I have to edit
Lubov,
that.
I just wanted to drop in to say hi, then I'll let you unpack. I was told to wait till morning, but I'm too impatient for that.
It's got too many stumbles.
Lubov, I just wanted to drop in and say hi. Then
I don't know why OBS keeps disconnecting. Well, hopefully that'll. I think it says it's streaming now. Well, hopefully it'll stop disconnecting. Oh yeah. I totally lost my train of thought. I'm off meds, guys, but I should be on meds later. Anyway, ADHD meds specifically. Before you get too scared. Um, so this character we kind of come to see is he's got a problem of he's like locked in stasis. He hasn't apparently changed in the last however many years. I mean, if he started going to college when he was 18, he's been in school almost a decade. It is streaming now? Okay. Uh, well, hopefully it keeps working. See, Eternal Student is bad. It's bad. We streaming. Hell yeah.
Lubov, I just wanted to drop in to say hi, then I'll let you unpack. I was told to wait till morning, but I'm too impatient for that. Lub.
I love the one thing that I've really enjoyed about working with Will was that he puts in like a lot of really subtle touches, um, um, like little character things that make it a little more real, little come to life a bit more, kind of going above and beyond what's literally written down. And I really appreciate that in an actor who can do that. Not everybody can.
Lubov, I just wanted to drop in and say hi, then I'll let you unpack. I was told to wait till morning, but I'm too impatient for that.
Okay. So you just heard them, but I was totally distracted, so we're going to have to go through them again. But this is the master script, just a database, lives in a database. Can we increase the font here? This is like, oh, wow. Yeah, we can. This is, I just, so I don't know, but one thing that I had Will do is, there's probably a proper name for it, but I call it British boarding school accent. Is for Peter Trofimov, I had him do British boarding school accent, which is not Will's natural accent, for most of the game, the play, because this character kind of puts on airs and does a lot of like moral posturing, and then I have him drop back into his natural voice when this character's being very sincere, and that was really fun to have as a component for this character. And it's unique because I haven't seen any adaptation that does that. Because there's like, you know, British people will put on different accents based on like the situation in a way that is not terribly common for, I guess, white Americans to do. So yeah, he's that's not quite his natural voice. That's British boarding school accent right there. Anyway, I made the text bigger, so hopefully y'all can kind of see what we're working off of. DB Browser for SQLite just recently had a new release that lets you change the formatting of the text in the database, which has like no actual effect on the data itself. It's not even saved from session to session, but it's quite helpful. I'm happy for that change because it makes a lot of things just for like managing the data easier. But anyway, oh yeah, I was picking takes. Really, really great pace, eh? Well, I already eliminated one. Let's listen to these again. Yeah. In the last 6 months, only two others. And really, I've never actually seen it put on stage. I'd like to. But I became familiar with it because it was used in the acting classes I took in college for a lot of like material and scene work and partner work, and we had to like read it and study it. And one of my finals was like, you know, a monologue of one of the characters, so it's a play that I'm familiar with for that reason. And I'm trying to get back in touch with my mentor from college who mentored me in playwriting because he directed The Cherry Orchard like the year after I graduated. I didn't get to see it because I was in Tanzania at the time. But I know his interpretation of the play is not the same as mine, and we had a great relationship. It was very close, but we like disagreed a lot. So I think he would hate my interpretation, but in a way that he would respect. So I've been trying to get back in touch with him so I can show it to him so he can hate it, but like with love. Hate it with love. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, I bought the. I've seen the two because I bought the DVD. Actually, I haven't watched them in full yet. I've been waiting. I'm gonna have like a virtual cast party with the cast, and we're gonna watch it all the way through. But I've watched like certain scenes, but I made sure not to watch it until I had gotten through almost all of the recording with the cast, because I didn't want to be super influenced one way or another. I had seen the 1982 movie, I think, when I was in college, but I barely remember it. I remember the things that I didn't like about it. I'll probably go into. I could ramble about this play forever, but I know that's not what y'all came here to see. Well, let's pick some takes. Okay.
Lubov, I just wanted to drop in and say hi. Then I'll let you unpack. I was told to wait till morning, but I'm too impatient for that. Lubov, I just wanted to drop in to say hi. Then I'll let you unpack. I was told to wait till morning, but I'm too impatient for that. Lubov, I just wanted to drop in and say hi. Then I'll let you unpack. I was told to wait till morning, but I'm too impatient for that.
I think it's between the last one, the second to last one. They're both the best. I think I'm gonna go with the last one because I think he had a bit more like nervous contrition there. Because part of it is the person who told him to wait until morning. At this point, it's 3 a.m. in the play. Is there? So I did tell Will when I was directing him, like, say that as if you're like looking at her and being like, whoops, I'm doing the thing, I'm doing it. So I heard that come out the most in that take. So I think that'll be my preferred one. So I usually never like actually write down anywhere what my preferred takes were. I just like handle it by sorting and then, you know, whichever one ends up in my project. Maybe I should, but I don't. That is only like once come back to bite me, and I had a terrible version control mishap with Red Star in like 2018. Do I ever write notes about these things? When I'm casting. Oh, that might be fun to show y'all like some of the auditions. Well, no, I would only show the auditions of the people who were cast because I don't want to show the auditions of anybody who wasn't cast because that would be violating their privacy. Like I could show y'all the auditions of like Will and Matt because they got the parts. It's no secret that they auditioned. I do write notes for that, but that's because the last 2 times I've cast something, I cast with somebody else, so we're sharing notes. But when it's like picking up takes like this, I generally don't write anything down because I'm just trying to get it done and shove this shit in my project. Because I guess it's silly, but whenever I do stuff like this, it feels like it's not progress. So I like get anxious that I'm not doing enough work that day. Even though like it is progress, like it's necessary. Like I can't work with the audio in the game until I like pick out what audio I'm going to put in the game. But I don't know. You know, millennials having guilt about being productive. All right, let's see here.
It's me, Peter Trofimov. I used to tutor Grisha. I haven't changed that much, have I? It's me, Peter Trofimov. I used to tutor Grisha. I haven't changed that much, have I? It's me, Peter Trofimov. I used to tutor Grisha. I haven't changed that much, have I? It's me, Peter Trofimov. I used to tutor Grisha. I haven't changed that much, have I?
Awesome. Okay, so notes between the last two. So get rid of those, and I can already put those in. I've done that before. I can show y'all how I use Fmod. I would only do that if I like the takes equally, but usually I can find a take that I like the best. And one of the big determining factors is, when you direct a play or you direct any kind of creative thing, you need to, create the story. And I know it sounds strange, but even when you direct something that you haven't written, what the actual story is perceived as being does kind of come down to the direction, to the interpretation. So what I decided to do to direct this line is, so what's going on is this character comes in and it's me, Peter Trofimov. The character of Lyubov, she 5 years before the play started, her son drowned, and Trofimov was, well, as he says, he's the tutor of her dead kid. And so when she sees him again, it reminds her of her dead son, and she starts like weeping. So, there's a decision to make there. Why is he saying this? It seems silly, but you kind of have to look at every line and interrogate, like, why is this line being said? So if he's coming in and he says, like, hi, I'm dropping in, saying hi, because Lyubov has come back to her estate after living in Paris for 5 years, and he's a friend of the family. He must be saying this because he perceives her as not recognizing him. Because, why would you say, it's me, my name, unless you felt like the other person didn't know or whatever? And so he not only says, like, it's me, and then he has, I used to tutor Grisha. I haven't changed that much, have I? I decided, like, he must be saying that because after each one, he's still not seeing any recognition in her face. And I decided, like, there's the decision to make of, is it really that she doesn't recognize him after 5 years, or is it that she's actually, like, distracted being upset about her dead kid, and he just interprets that as her not recognizing him. So she gets very familiar with him right after this. She like kind of teases him about how his hair's thinned. So I think she does recognize him. So my interpretation is that her lack of response to him is just her, like, being overcome with emotions about thinking about her dead kid. So I was saying to Will, give it space to breathe. Give him, like, some nervousness, because he must be thinking, oh shit, like she doesn't remember me. And one thing characters keep commenting on throughout this play is that he, like, aged really badly. Like, he's 27. He's stated to be 27, but he's stated to, like, look a lot older than that. So aging badly. So I could imagine, some embarrassment in him when he says, like, I haven't changed that much, have I? Because, like, he is aware that, like, he looks like shit. So I blathered all that to explain, like, when I'm picking out takes, I'm looking for the one that communicates this idea the most. So one of the reasons why I very rarely put in, like, an Fmod multi-sound is that usually there's one take that, like, communicates that the most, and that's the one I want people to hear, even though it's fun to have alternates, because I have, like, a message and a story that I'm trying to communicate with this story, with this play. So anyway, we're going to listen to those again and pick out a take, although I have a feeling it's going to be the last one, but it is kind of funny. I feel like often I end up picking the last one, but the second most common is the second to last one, where what I usually do is if someone, like, nails a take, I have them do it again, so I can have two perfect takes, because sometimes, like, something fucks up the first one, or if someone got it almost perfect, I usually tell them that it was perfect. because then they get confident and then they nail it in the next one. But so yeah, it's often between the last two, but you can't just like blindly grab the last take because often the second to last one is actually the best one. And yeah, that's the importance of direction, takeso. Like even if you didn't literally write the script, you are still telling the story by how you choose to interpret that script. So anyway,
It's me, Peter Trofimov. I used to tutor Grisha. I haven't changed that much, have I? It's me, Peter Trofimov. I used to tutor Grisha. I haven't changed that much, have I?
all right, I'm definitely gonna go for the last one because I think I sensed more like of oh shit, like I look so much like shit she doesn't recognize me, which is funny because one of the reasons why I really wanted to do the Cherry Orchard is because it's famous for being a play that can be interpreted in a lot of different ways. Not that it was written to be open to interpretation. Chekhov wrote it explicitly as a comedy, and he got mad at people who put it on as a tragedy. But he wrote it in a very strange way. And in fact, even if you put it on as a comedy, you have to reconcile the tragic elements. And if you put it on as a tragedy, you have to reconcile the comic elements. So it's kind of a notoriously difficult play to direct for that reason. And I have hubris. That's why I wanted to direct it. But the most traditional way to stage this, and the first way it was staged, was as a tragedy, as a serious play. So I'm kind of trying to be a bit different. Well, not even just to be different. I just personally think the play's better this way. I'm trying to be, play it like a comedy, just with some serious moments. So I will almost always lean towards the side of whichever is more funny. So it's more funny if he's like, ah, shit, I look like shit now, fuck, except British. Anyway, that was a long-winded explanation, but, I love directing. I love theater. I have a theater background. I've only been doing game dev for like 5 years, but I've been doing theater for over 10 years. And in a way, like, games are my way of being able to do theater. Anyway, on to... this guy, like, Will is an actual British person. He's not doing a fake accent. He's an authentic Brit. Organic, homegrown, bespoke British person. Yeah, well, it'll come down to how I animate it. Well, maybe we'll see if we get to that today. I don't know how long British people exist. No, it's a myth. It's made up. So actually, you can't see the full thing because I've got the filter on, but let's you'll see. Blah blah blah. One thing that was really liberating about okay, so this is the first time I've directed a video game where the script wasn't one I wrote, and it's like the first time in at least 8 years that I've done a few things. It's the first major project I've directed in like 8 years that it was something I didn't write, which is kind of liberating because then I'm like, I don't have to feel embarrassed or like worry about defending the writing. Because it's like, well, it's Chekhov, so, it's obviously good, and I don't need to worry about people thinking it's stupid. And if they think it's stupid, then that's their problem, because I didn't write it. Although I did adapt the script, because the this is a abridged version. My version's 30 minutes long, about from start to finish, and has 4 characters. The full play is over 2 hours and has 17 characters. I'd love to do the full play, but that would be ridiculously expensive to cast. Like tens of thousands of dollars in VO, I think. Anyway, let's pick out this one. This is a much shorter line. It should be easier to pick out. So Lubov starts, Grisha, my boy, Grisha, my son.
It's all right. 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 It's all right.
So these are all like nearly identical. like if there were like multiple takes that I like them all equally well, and like there was something funny or unique about the ones I liked equally, I might put in a multi-sound in Fmod. But since these all sound like almost exactly the same, I'm not going to do that because like, what's the point? They all sound like nearly exactly the same. I think though, I think I remember that one being slightly better, but won't take too long to listen to them all again.
It's all right. 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 It's all right.
Okay, yeah. It's between track 9 and 4 because I could hear in the character, I think I do like the last one, 14, because what I hear in it is like the feeling of the character feeling kind of put on the spot. These are all like super subtle things that are, come down to both what the actor's capable of delivering and what you're capable of hearing and what story you're trying to tell. I feel like in the last one, he sounds almost like, oh shit, fuck, what do I do now? Yeah.
It's all right. It's all right.
I mean, obviously, it's not super like pronounced, but that's what I hear in there. So I'm gonna go with. And well, what I say, sometimes you pick the second to last take. Well, I mean, there's sometimes where you pick the first take, and sometimes I feel bad about that. Like I'll make somebody give me like 8 takes, and then I end up going with the first one because like their initial instincts were actually best after all. But most of the time that doesn't happen. But that's why I try not to be a big control freak as a director. In fact, what I usually do is for the first take, I don't give any direction at all. And I just tell them like, go for it. Because sometimes they'll bring in an interpretation that I would never have considered. And if it's actually good, then I can be like, yeah, more like that. And pretend that I was a genius and I thought of it. Well, not like I would take credit. It doesn't even make sense, but you know what I mean. But if they didn't go in the direction I wanted, then that's when I can come in and be like, well, let's try. Yeah. Because some people are like big. Well, because when you direct, I think you have to accept sometimes that the way you hear it in your head is not quite right. But when you do direct something, you have to have such a thorough picture of what you need to have a very strong picture of what you're looking for to make a coherent finished result. And so when you have that strong picture in your head, it can be very difficult to be flexible and be like, actually, I'm okay with it sounding like this. So it's it's a skill to decide like when to be firm and when not to, like when to be flexible. Because sometimes your instincts are right and you could be like, I know you like that interpretation, but we need to do it my way. What's kind of disappointing is sometimes working with somebody who is like the actor themselves is inflexible and they won't give you another interpretation except their own. That can get a bit dicey. Fortunately, I didn't work with anybody on this project who was like that.
In the train, an old woman called me a decayed gentleman. In the train, some old woman called me a decayed gentleman. In the train, an old woman called me a decayed gentleman. In the train, an old woman called me a decayed gentleman.
I think I'm going to go with 15. Because I talked to him about this. Why would this character volunteer this information? Because, Lubov basically, tells him, you look like shit. Well, Peter, you look terrible. When did you get so old? And that's when he says that. I feel like if he says that, it must not have bothered him that much. Because otherwise, why would he volunteer that information? You know what I'm saying? Like, if he was embarrassed by it, he wouldn't, bring it up again. So I think he must have found that kind of amusing in some way. So the first 2 were when he kind of gave it, it bothered him. That was before I gave that direction in the session. In the last 2, he started doing it. I guess I'll listen to them one more time because then I forgot. But I think I heard in 1, there was a bit more of an almost embarrassed giggle in the end, and I thought that was really funny, so...
In the train, an old woman called me a decayed gentleman. In the train, an old woman called me a decayed gentleman.
Yeah, it was 15. Oh, I love those little touches like that. Whoa, there's a fly. Yeah, 115. Always good to keep your alts not never delete your alts, because there it can be a time when you so you may note that I'm listening to all these in isolation. I'm not listening to these against the audio of the other person. It's just faster to do it this way. But sometimes when you cobble it all together, you find like the takes you liked best in isolation don't actually sound good together. So sometimes you have to go back and grab one of the alts. All right.
I suppose I shall always be a student. I suppose I shall always be a student. I suppose I shall always be a student. I suppose I shall always be a student.
I think I like 16 the best. This is when she's like, are you really still in college? Are you really still in school? Yeah, I guess I'm always going to be in school. Yeah, I think it is once again between the last two, so let's listen to that again.
I suppose I shall always be a student. I suppose I shall always be a student.
Well, I'm actually kind of torn, because even though he had kind of like that half-voiced giggle at the end of the other one, the other one is a bit more contemplative, which might work better in terms of communicating, the story or the inner life of this character that I want. So it comes down to when he says that he shall always be a student. Why does he say that? Or how does he feel about always being a student? Like, does he think that's kind of embarrassing or funny? Oh, this character is explicitly 27, but explicitly looks like almost middle-aged. The actor himself, I'm pretty sure, is in his 30s. Probably early to mid-30s. So it's like, does the character think it's like slightly funny or embarrassing that he's still a student, or is he more contemplative about it? I could go either way. I'm gonna listen to it one more time. Usually when I am stuck like that, listening to it again and again doesn't really reveal much more. So then I usually like kind of make a snap decision based on like gut instinct, for better or for worse, because sometimes I end up going back and grabbing the alt. But in that case, I might even it's not a very good system, but I changed the file name of the other one that I almost picked. Like, I usually put like good at the end of the file name, just so that when I go digging through the alts, I'm like, oh yeah, this is the other one that I liked.
I suppose I shall always be a student. I suppose I shall always be a student.
You know what? I think I like the last one, even though it's less funny, because I think it is more true to the story we want to tell with this character. So one thing that is fun about looking at other interpretations of this play is, since it's a well-written play, the characters don't explain why they do things. They just do things without explaining why. They don't explain how they're feeling. So if you choose to direct something a certain way, you can kind of make a story that was probably not intended by the original author. Like, not against their intention, but that's kind of the thing about theater, and that's sort of something that playwrights account for when they write, is like allowing wiggle room for different interpretations. So we wanted to develop, so I directed this like a play because I wanted to put on a play. I don't direct video games like this. So I directed this much more collaboratively than I usually direct. But I actually had a meeting with the cast before we even started recording. I got them all in a group call and we discussed like what we wanted to do with the characters, which is something that is very common to stage, because we had a read through, which is never done in video games. But I wanted to do this like a stage play. We talked about like, where we were going to take the characters, and I had already, obviously before I cast it, like had written reams and reams of notes about what I wanted, but I discussed it with everybody. And we decided that this character was going to have a story about how they were like kind of immature, in a state of arrested development, and like unable to sort of grow up and like move on and like, graduate and be a full adult. But like he's aware of his like what's wrong with him, but he's not willing to like do anything to change anything about himself, is how we wanted to direct it. And then we'll get to that probably maybe today when I'm picking out takes. He ends up like being majorly humiliated in the third act in a way that's kind of bizarre, that to modern readers. Like, you kind of go like, is that supposed to be funny? That doesn't seem very funny. You'll see, it's not like offensive or weird. It's just like it's clearly supposed to be funny, but it is weird. So we decided to shape that as like the catalyst for this character deciding to change something about himself. And then we represent that in the last act with Will using his natural accent for this character. This is something that we just like made up. It's totally not like intended subtext by Chekhov. I'm not aware of any other production that has done this. But that's kind of the beauty of theater, is you have the leeway to kind of tell stories within the story. And that's what I love about Will, because it means like plays are alive in a way that movies aren't. Because you can't just go and like, remake some movie to do it your own way. I mean, I know Angry Nerds tried to do that about Star Wars, but even if it wasn't cost prohibitive, that's just like not something you do with movies. Whereas like with plays, no one gets too upset about, how any play is staged, because there's the expectation that like the play will be staged by somebody else some other time. I don't know. I was rambling. I don't know why. I don't know. Okay, so we got the Act 1 takes picked out. Hooray! So do you want to keep picking out Act 2, or do you want to toss this in? So I've been trying to integrate Unity's timeline with my own systems, because I have like sort of my own means of blocking out scene stuff. I don't know how much detail I want to go into that, because I'm feeling a little brain dead. But what I've kind of been... So Unity's timeline, if you put in like native Unity audio, will show you the waveform of the audio, which is really useful for like trying to queue up animations against. But I use Fmod. And so you can put in Fmod clips into the Unity timeline, but you can't see the waveform. And I looked into it. The way Unity makes their native audio show up with a waveform on the audio clip is locked up in this editor DLL library that you cannot access outside of its namespace, which you can't get into because it's a fucking DLL and it's, closed source. So to be able to show the waveform in the clip for like my own custom scripts, like I would have to hack the DLL, and I'm too lazy for that. Because you can read the source, you can find it, you can look at what the name is in the namespace, what all the methods do, but you can't access it outside of that. You can't access it outside the assembly, and you can't put your own stuff in the assembly because it's you know what I'm talking about. Y'all are tech people. Yeah. It's actually I think I did toss some Fmod. So what I've been doing is I've been using Unity's native audio to like time cameras and stuff, and then I've been going back and replacing them with Fmod clips. Anyway, I'm gonna just keep picking out takes. I want to get through this, because then once I have all the takes picked out, that'll be the last of the audio that I need to sort for this game. Ooh, Lord have mercy. So this character, that is kind of funny. It once again comes down to interpretation. This character's university student, has like a lot of big speeches. In fact, if you look up the play on SparkNotes or CliffNotes or whatever, like they, interpretations of the speeches. By the way, the SparkNotes for this play are really bad. They're like clearly written by like a college student who like was forced to or was doing it for like contract money or something. Because they like put in these like in analysis of his speeches that I like. They're not wrong, but they're saying them like that's the definitive interpretation, and I'm not convinced. So in fact, I'll let y'all listen to one of his lines. In my opinion, this character is supposed to be seen as very comic and silly and like bullshitting. But a lot of people interpret it as like he must be super deep. And so I've seen parts of the movie where like when he's saying these things, all the other characters are paying rapt attention and they think he's brilliant. But I don't think that's necessarily supported by the text. So anyway, that said. I know it won't be terribly interesting. Where are we going to pick takes for this?
The human race progresses, perfecting its powers. And how can we know that one truly dies? Perhaps a man has 100 senses, and when he dies, the 5 known to us are destroyed, and the remaining 95 are left alive. The human race progresses, perfecting its powers. And how can we know that one truly dies? Perhaps a man has 100 senses, and when he dies, only the 5 known to us are destroyed, and the remaining 95 are left alive. The human race progresses, perfecting its powers. And how can we know that one truly dies? Perhaps a man has 100 senses, and when he dies, only the 5 known to us are destroyed, and the remaining 95 are left alive. The human race progresses, perfecting its powers. And how can we know that one truly dies? Perhaps a man has 100 senses, and when he dies, only the 5 known to us are destroyed, and the remaining 95 are left alive.
I'm definitely going for the last one. So you may have noticed there was a difference in how he was delivering the line between the first two and the last two, and that's because in the middle of, well, not in the middle, like after that, unusually for a video game, this is almost never done. We did it for this video game because I produced this like a play. These were group recordings so that they could like react off of each other. It was great. So these were actually all said like, you know, with the scene partners together. So when they were done with that scene, I told him to deliver the line as if he's bullshitting. Like he's just making this shit up to try to sound smart. So that's the difference between why he sounds so sure of himself in the first 2 takes and why he's like, you know, stammering in the last 2 takes. Because actually, do I have the DVD put in now? I want to show y'all. Yeah, it is. Okay. Yeah, this will be educational. We pulled up how it's done in the 1982 movie. They do it like this is some actual deep shit. This deep, meaningful shit. That's bullshit. Like, what the fuck does that even mean? Let me see if I can find it real quick. Yeah.
In your estate, they say.
My house there. I believe people like it.
Intelligentsia seek nothing, do nothing, and appear congenitally incapable of work of any kind.
That's their Trofimov.
They bask in the term intelligentsia and treat the servants like an inferior species. Peasants like beasts of burden. Their scholarship is banal. Their level of culture nil. Their grasp of science non-existent, and their feeling for art trivial and irrelevant. Oh, of course they can look as grave as anyone.
As you can see, I
talk about
abridged
important
quite a
matters and
bit
make
of
metaphysical
this.
speculations with the best.
It kind
While all around them, right beneath
goes
their
on.
eyes, the workers eat scraps of rancid meat and sleep on bare boards, 30 or 40 to a room. Bed bugs.
of get on with it. I think
Shit.
he's about to say
Leaking roofs, moral degradation. And then it becomes obvious that all our philosophical salon chat has only one purpose, namely to distract ourselves and everyone else from the real issues.
So they're like portraying him like he knows what he's talking about. But he's like,
What happened to all those creches we talked about so far into the
"You're gonna
bourgeois vulgarity
blah blah blah."
and moral barbarism? I fear.
Blah blah blah. Well, where you didn't
handle
you're
a
gonna
good-
find it. It's in there somewhere. I don't have enough patience for that to go through it. But anyway, they portray this guy as like the romantic lead of the film. I don't agree with that interpretation. I think this character's a big fucking nerd. So anyway, I think I'm gonna go with the last one because he put in like a little voice crack, little squeak in there that was really funny. So I think I'm gonna do that.